come on up and take a seat. We're not all crowded in that panel room and the vendor room like we did for years, so hopefully everyone is nice and comfortable. The first thing we're going to do before we turn it over to our panel is we're going to announce our honorees. Again, this is a tradition we've been doing for about 5 years now, and many people ask who nominated me as an honoree. Well, it is through our evaluations that happen at every one of our events. It's through polling that my team does. So congratulations to being an honoree. Again, we think every cyber practitioner should be an honoree. So we try to celebrate you all throughout the day, but we do have a special group of people that we're going to honor here today. So I have Diana Zhu. She's the security engineer at Equifax, and I know she was here because she won on the spin wheel. Is she still here? Come on up, and congratulations. A round of applause. Then I have Naden Valieve. He's the IT audit manager at PwC. Are you still here? Okay, congratulations. Then I have Lachelle Taylor, who's information security analyst at Racetrack. Lachelle, come on up. I have Yuso Sayers, is the director of IT internal audit at Warner Brothers Discovery. Come on up. Congratulations. I have, this is a tough one. You want to do this one for me, James?
Wow. You do it.
Vaishnavi Sardesh Pandey.
That was a hard one. Okay. All right, perfect. Okay, I have.
I can do this.
Stephen Moore, a security architect, and for some reason, his company is not on here. Stephen, are you here? Here in spirit. Okay, Adam Lee, security architect at IHG Hotels and Resorts. Come on up. I have Michael Ivy, is head of security engineering at Modern Health. Congratulations. I have Anna Gomez, is manager of security encryption team at InComm Payments. Congratulations. So many women today. That's amazing. Ramunda Dominic from Enterprise Security Architect from General Motors. Okay, we have Rashida Carr, cybersecurity training and development lead at EdgeSource. All right, congratulations. Thanks, James. Lionel Bjorn is cloud security and engineer at Warner Brothers again. Congratulations.
That's easy.
Brittany Bishop, but I need to see title. Information Technology Audit Manager at Synchrony. Is Brittany here? Okay, excellent. We have Ilona Garland, Senior Manager Cybersecurity at the Home Depot. Home Depot. All right, that one's not here. And then now we're to our panel. We have Luis Valenzuela. Well, wait, he's so impatient here. Okay, Director of Data Governance and Data Loss Prevention, and one of our great panelists from InComm Payments. Luis, thank you, and thank you for taking the time to sit on our panel. We have Hussein Mereby, is that right? Hussein Mereby, am I saying that your last name right? He is Chief Cyber Engineer from SAIC and one of our panelists today. Thank you. We have Kristen Ellis, Chief Information Security Officer from NASCO, and just said yes to be on the panel at the last minute. You're amazing. Thank you. And then we have Naresh Yelkoti, Senior Information Security Engineer at U.S. Bank. And then we have Ken Foster, who has always been a token of this event, I feel like, Chief Information Security Officer at Candescent, and thank you, Ken, for all your support with FutureCon. Last but not least, James Azar, another great supporter of our event, CISO at Artera, our great keynote speaker today, and he will be leading up the panel, so a round of applause for James. A round of applause for all of our honorees, and I'm going to pass it over to James, and let's welcome our panelists. Okay, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good? All right, who's boozed up? On the panel, who's boozed up? Ken Foster. All right, welcome to our afternoon panel. We're going to keep this one light, breezy. Crowd participation is required, so you're not going to get away from being able to participate. We want your questions because I'm 100% sure you guys can ask better questions than I ever could. So with that being said, we're going to be kind of keeping this light and breezy in terms of giving you all insights into what every single person on here goes through kind of a day-to-day basis. And can you guys believe it's November? Anyone, like, are you ready to walk into Publix after this event and hear Christmas music? Because it's there. It's there. The weather outside is... I'm kidding. We're not going to sing holiday music. Yeah, Mariah Carey is like banking on this season being out of the, so she can make her money. But it's November, which means it's time for us to summarize 2025 because we're getting ready to welcome 2026. So let's talk about 2025 panel. Ken Foster will be the last person to answer any question we ask. So just want to put that out there. We're not starting with Ken. Maybe we'll start with Kristen, 2025. What's it been like? And before we do that, the panelists should introduce themselves first. I apologize. I assume everyone knows everyone here because it just got an award, but maybe we'll start with you. Grab the mic, introduce name, title, and how long you've been in security for our audience.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, hi, everyone. This is my first time. So. My name is Naresh Yelkoti, currently serving as a senior cloud and application security engineer at US Bank. Has been over 3+ years at US Bank. Previously, I used to work at Mercedes-Benz. Over 10+ years of experience I have in security. My major focus is on securing multi-cloud workloads. From containers and serverless to API, CI/CD pipelines and API integration, AI-driven AI automation. Over the past few years, I've led several enterprise initiatives, integrated Prisma Wiz into Black Duck and Fortify into CI/CD. And risk improving visibility, focused on improving risk visibility, sort of that kind of work I have done. Pass it on to Luis.
Hello, Luis Valenzuela. I'm the Director of Data Governance and Data Loss Prevention at InComm Payments. I've been in IT for a couple of decades and in cybersecurity for a decade. And our team is responsible for everything related to data protection, data classification, labeling, Gen AI, red teaming, protection of data through AI tools, anything related to data. And just glad to be here.
Hi, Kristen Ellis. I'm the CISO at NASCO, an Atlanta-based company. And I've been in IT for just about 30 years, don't do that math, and security for 20 of that.
Sorry. Hussein Mereby, Chief Cyber Engineer for SAIC. Been in the security space for about 25 years.
Hey, Ken Foster. I just wandered in off the street. Thought I'd come see what's going on. This looked cool. Nah,
The beard and the bourbon.
the beard and the bourbon, yeah. Hey, it was free bourbon, you know, come on. Now, I'm currently the CISO at Candescent. Let's see, I've been doing this a little over 30 years. Just about every facet of security. And Luis wins for being the first to mention AI on the panel. So.
Yeah, we'll try to avoid all the buzzwords you've heard all day. So I think I'm going to start with Kristen on this one, but 2025, you're obviously we still have another 55 days left in the year, 56 days. We can start summarizing, it's not too early. What would you say has kind of stood out to you this year over years past?
So for us at NASCO, for anybody who doesn't know, we experienced not too long ago an incident right after I started, unfortunately. And so this was really our year to not just rebuild, we really did that last year, but now to optimize. So budgets were cut. We didn't have our full team. And so for us, it's really been a focus on how do we shift left. And I know that was used earlier as a buzzword. Shift left to me is not just start scanning your code earlier in the process. Shift left is really adopting security into the full corporation. So from the sales process, working with the sales team, helping them understand where security benefits our sales process, how a secure product obviously sells better than an insecure product or unsecure product. Moving that into our design, working with the product teams, identifying what is actually going to make something secure, and building that into architecture, right? So we don't just do security at the end. We're not just defending the perimeter. We don't just have layers of defense. We have a way of life. And so for me, it's really been about improving how security is seen across the board. We want to partner with everybody in the company, in every department, not just a handful of the departments, not just IT, but everywhere. So we try to keep present at all times and make sure that we're incorporated in all aspects of the business. And that's really been our focus for this year while we optimize our tool set and make sure that, of course, we're still defending the perimeter.
Luis, maybe we go to you, buddy.
From my perspective, not unlike many other companies, it's been a year of challenges and of being creative. Because of the economy, budgets are flat, there's no additional money, but there are always additional risks. So for us, it's been a lot about figuring out how we create that extra amount of money to cover this other thing, or where can we optimize our current tools, where do we optimize processes, sometimes even people. And we have faced less resources to work with. So it's been kind of a challenge and a force to take us into a new way of seeing things. How do we make more with less? And I think it's been very productive for us, a good learning time for us, and for many other organizations, as far as I can tell and hear from other leaders.
Yeah, Hussein, Naresh, would you guys like to take this one on? One of you? We'll see. Maybe we'll let Hussein go first. Go ahead, please.
Same question.
Same question.
Just to make it sure. Yeah, for me, I cover one of the states or government, the entire state operations, and this for me was a transition, making taking over the operations for that specific state. And in that aspect is just a lot of implementation of either existing tooling or new tooling, and making sure that we're measuring the risk for all entities, because I cover everybody from financial to Department of Revenue, Department of Motor Vehicles. So I cover the entire state, and then also education. So there is a lot of nuances, differences than normal operation, you know, in a corporate world where you have the same flow, the same thing. So the focus was on making sure that we establishing standards. We are establishing through either a process, technology, policies, standards, or working with that specific entity in order to understand the risk and address it for them.
Okay, this year has been a great learning for me. Everyone knows about AI, and also I have learned AI adaptive attacks, like malware itself rewriting dynamically. That's a great learning. And I would say,
So it's been an interesting year, right, with all the emerging technology, and I'm avoiding the two-letter word on purpose because I think it's more than just that. Because we've sitting from a CISO seat, right, we're looking at all the emerging tech out there. We're looking at flat budgets. We're looking at regulatory changes. We're looking at legal changes we're looking at geopolitical issues across the board. And we're trying to understand, because we're being asked questions from the CISO seat on how do we utilize these tools better to keep our costs lower, to be more efficient, to enable our businesses to move at a greater velocity by rolling these tools out. Whether it be from basic automation to tools rationalization to using whatever the new emerging tech is out there to move at a faster pace, because our boards and our CEOs and our leadership teams are all being asked is like, what are you doing today to enable this new tool set coming out? And how are you going to reduce cost and make it more efficient? Because there's a lot of information out there and it's not necessarily good information, but there's a lot of information out there that says you can reduce your headcount, you can deliver faster, because these tools will do what these people do in your teams or what this process has done. So I think it's been a year of reflection looking back at going, and I know I've said this before, is automating or using technology to take a process and move the human out of it is okay if you have a good process and understanding how that works. If you automate that shitty process, and it's a shitty process, it gets bad, it's worse, right? It's going to fail faster. So you got to reevaluate how you're going to approach the business and how you're going to appropriately put the humans in the right place. I don't necessarily disagree that there are going to be jobs replaced with technology today, but the truth is they still need a human in there to validate that information is good, and you need to be getting better at hygiene. So I think the one thing that's being overlooked a lot is going back to some of the basics. And the other buzzword that I hate using that's starts with a Z, you mentioned it earlier, what you were talking, right? It's still a marketing term built around things that we should have been doing, as supposed to been doing for the last, as long as I've been doing this, longer than Wes has been around. So,
There's Wes.
There's Wes.
My eyes were really bad, and I thought you were in the room earlier.
Yeah, so
I apologize. Someone here looks just like you.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to go sit beside this gentleman that's directly in front of me, just one table in. You guys, yeah.
Yeah.
But, it gets into just, you got to really think about your overall strategy and just move forward from there. So it's not, cannot be a one-size-fits-all. None of the technology that's come out is the panacea that everybody thinks it is. Is it going to change the way we do our jobs? 100%. Are we still going to have to take a step back and think about how we do this? Yeah, we need people who understand those processes and understand what's coming at it to make sure we're not getting erroneous data and we're moving at a pace that's going to cause us more risk and more damage than what we're currently dealing with.
We look at 2025, and obviously one of the big kind of stories that has been repeated, wash, rinse, repeat this year has been supply chain attacks, right? Salesforce. We can, keep going down that list of other companies where it wasn't really a hack as much as it was compromising credentials and identity first types of attacks. Looking at this, maybe I'll ask the panel, why is it still so easy to steal someone's credentials and just log in? Who wants to take this one first? I'm gonna pick on someone. I'm gonna go to Hussein. Hussein, is this one's all yours. Hussein's like, no, not me, just
No, that's fine. Obviously, is the basics, meaning ensuring that your credentials are protected and making sure that you're monitoring those credentials at all times in order for you to understand if there is any leak toward these credentials. And also, as well as threat intel, in order for you to match that threat intel to what you have in your environment, to make sure if something that's happened to seep, you're aware of it, or at least you get alerted to in order for to do that. So to me is the basic hygiene of making sure your users are, there is a process in place for those people that are left the company to be moved out, or the people rotating passwords or rotating, passkeys, or to make sure that the service accounts are accounted for, to make sure that those credentials are protected in different ways, and you have a way for you to monitor on those credentials in order for you to know the state of those credentials all the time, and if there is a leak, for you to be aware of it or get ahead of it in order for you to do that, to reduce that risk.
And I just want to add one more thing to it. I think supply chains has become a next biggest attack surface, and we have to focus on visibility, verification, validation at each stage. If you, for me, being an engineer, deploying before anything going to the production, each stage we have scanning tools, SCA, SBOM, and all those kind of things. Each stage we have to verify, visibility and validation required.
So we know they're not just stealing credentials, usernames, and passwords. Obviously, with the Salesforce, this was a SalesLoft Drift, right? They stole the OAuth token from SalesLoft Drift. They used that to get access in a Salesforce environment, then exfiltrate data. Maybe kind of honing in on that one specifically. Obviously, I remember everyone remember when MFA was supposed to solve all credential hacking? Anyone remember those times? Anyone here old enough? Anyone old enough to remember that? Show of hands. Remember? Just MFA, 99% of breaches go down. Remember that one? It solves everything. Now SSO solves everything. Apparently not. So what's next? Why do we keep missing this? What is the actual, and you may not have an answer, and that's okay. You may just say, look, it's a problem as good as others. One second, Reggie. We're going to give Kristen a second, and then I'll get to you, buddy, I promise.
So I think it's interesting. I can't speak to Drift so much because we weren't impacted, fortunately. But I'll say we were recently impacted by a credential hacking, and I find it interesting that we did preach over and over, right? MFA was going to solve everything, but now we have MFA fatigue. And we spent so much time, and we over and over train on phishing, and don't put your credentials into something, but I think we forget that every system, every legacy system, has its own identity and access management. Sure, we can talk about AD and the easy shutoff, but how many systems don't have that easy shutoff, and how do we clean that up? It's not so much about zero trust in my mind. Instead, it's about trying to optimize how identity works across the organization, limiting the number of ways to get into the organization, but then also training our users more on the attack vectors being used to steal and use credentials, because they're unaware. Even, and I hate to admit it, but it was one of my security professionals who, on my team, who gave up his credentials, and I thought that, a security professional, you think that you are immune to that kind of an attack. And it's just not true, and fortunately for me, it was a pen test. So it was my own test. But it proved that we're all susceptible to that, and giving up credentials is huge, and we're not doing a good job of teaching people that you can't just click that button when you get that duo push, or put in the code, or ignore the email that said, hey, your credentials were just changed. Do something about it, and if you notice it, follow through.
Foster?
So I think ultimately, you're right. We've been hearing this forever, right? This is going to solve it. This is going to solve it. This is going to solve it, right? Unfortunately, I keep going back to the thing, we've got a tech debt problem, and a tech debt problem is more than old hardware. It's old practices, it's bad coding, it is the lack of understanding from our leadership that we need, and I'm gonna use what me and James were talking about earlier, investment in, it's not just cybersecurity, it's investment in the way and the processes we do to increase resiliency, right? The reason MFA fails, the reason SSO fails, the reason, because like you said, we can buy technology today and we can put things in place that do remove all access, right? Well, what if somebody thought that they need a ServiceNow ticket when an employee gets offboarded that a manager needs to improve before it revokes access, right? And nobody caught that process. So the employee got terminated, process kicked off, manager was on vacation, didn't approve a ServiceNow ticket, so that person's been gone for 2 weeks and had access the entire time. Seen it because I've lived through it. Right. So we've got to be better at explaining to our companies how that kind of technical debt, these inefficient ways that we're approaching it, these applications that are not tied in, segmentation, combination of MFA, single sign-on, and segmentation will eliminate a lot of this, because if Reggie should never have had access to Salesforce.
Which he shouldn't have.
Which he shouldn't have, right? But if Reggie should have never had access to Salesforce, and somehow through nested groups and over-entitlement and changing the JML process, somehow Reggie has admin access to Salesforce. He doesn't know it. He's never even logged into it. But because Reggie was doing something that's part of Reggie's job, he's out on the dark web looking for something, accidentally got compromised. Now he's given away access to Salesforce, and now somebody has gotten our customer list, right? It happens, right? That kind of stuff happens, but people are not thinking through these processes and explaining to the powers that be in your company on what this tech debt actually causes and where this risk actually comes from, and how do you invest in that, and how do you change process. And a lot of what we're talking about is more of a cultural change than it is a technology issue. There's technology out here. There's 20 people in that room next door that are selling a piece of technology that will probably fix one of the problems we're talking about. If you implement it fully, and you change your processes across the board to actually use that piece of technology. But if I only buy that piece of technology and only implement it in one of my business units, and only take care of this database or this SaaS application, and don't roll it out across the board, because guarantee you everything we do causes friction, right? Especially if your company's been around. What we do breaks things and causes friction. If you cannot discuss with the leadership in a way that understands investment and why the friction now, and getting people to understand the change in the culture that needs to happen, we're going to continue to see the log in, not the hack in.
Have we, Reggie, you had a question? Did you want to ask that? And if you do, you need the mic right next to you.
So My question is so as Ken just stated, and everyone has pretty much stated, we can have all the technology, all the MFAs, all the segmenting we want, but from my personal experience, we still run into the issue with the human factor. How do we fix or improve on the training? Because I know Proofpoint covered it a little bit earlier during their talk, but that's what I've noticed to be the biggest headache for incident responders like me is somebody called into a company, pretended to be that company's help desk, managed to get them to install a legitimate remote desktop program, and have now accessed this customer's network, which now threatens my network. But it has nothing to do with technology because they didn't have to go through MFA. They didn't even bother with the phishing email link. They literally did a imposter phone call and posed as, so how do we leverage what we know and the tools we have to improve employee training and awareness for situations like that? Because I think that is the biggest weak point we end up having when it comes to third-party compromises.
It's a great question, Reggie. Thank you for asking. Luis?
Yes, I was thinking as Ken was speaking, and it kind of goes to what you're saying. At a philosophical level, and especially at the CISO level, if all that is needed for the company to be compromised is one human clicking in one link, there's something wrong in the system, right? We should have enough layers of protection and technology in place so that if the user clicked, which in itself is one step we need to address, there should be something quarantining, doing some sort of technology-based solution to protect that to happen, right? Now, what that means, I believe, at a lower level, at the practitioner level, analysts, managers, directors, is every control that we put in place. My theory is if we have a process, a programmatic process where we test what we implement as controls frequently and in some sort of random way, over a period of time, we can confirm that the control that we put in place in January, it's still working in March, and it's still working in July, it's still working in September. I say that because in our team, we do that. Every control that we put in place, we add it to a roster that we randomly test every week, and my specialist is here sitting somewhere, Parth. He tests, so he pretends to be a user trying to do X mistake, or works with one of our security partners in the marketing department and say, hey, can you please try to exfiltrate this document and do this or do that? And we see the tool do what we expect the tool to do, and that goes to what Ken was saying, process. We need to have a process to measure that, and every time something doesn't respond the way it should, which it happens, then we go into the investigation. What happened? Oh, the IT team disabled something in the MCAS solution or whatever, but now we know. So we avoid the breach happens and, oh, that was not working for 6 months, right? And that's something that we can do at our level without necessarily having to do that much in addition to our responsibilities. It will help that kind of create that tested. So it's like if you think about having a red team for smaller controls in a frequent basis, and in that way you can document when something changes, and that will help you document if there's an addition for a need for an additional type of technology. But turning a tool, installing a tool, and just letting it go typically doesn't work, and that's why we have the issues, Salesforce and other recent breaches. That didn't really happen for any other reason than misconfigurations. So there was not a hacker breaking with code. They just found a way of finding a tool that was not properly configured from the beginning. And the way we can respond to that or prepare against that is make sure that every tool that we install, we tune, we test and test and test until we get to the level that we know we are comfortable, it's working, and we continue testing over time until we replace the tool or decommission it or whatever. It's just a thought.
I'm going to ask the crowd 2 questions. How many of you have lower environments that are security control-wise the same as your production environments? How many of you that raised your hand do you have access to production?
1, 2.
2.
2.
It's 2 hands.
So there was a dozen hands before for those who didn't look.
There was a dozen. That was still 2 hands too many. all right? Nobody needs full access to production, right? This is again a cultural issue with the way that we have generally worked over the years. Production should be a non-human touch, if at all possible, environment. Everything we should be doing should be done in a lower environment that does never have access nor touch the production environment by a human, because it will go back to what we're talking about. Even if I do get compromised, I'm not able to get into that upper environment. So.
Yeah, I mean, going to Reggie's kind of question around how do you deal with the human side of it, you can train and train and train, and we don't have any shortage of cyber awareness companies in the marketplace today. And yet the problem still remains the same, which is humans are susceptible to it. And some of the best people, like Kristen said, one of her employees was the one who actually gave up his credentials on an internal test. You can go back to the fact that when you do blanket awareness, you get blanket results. And awareness needs to be something that's primarily targeted per the risk for that specific individual, right? I mean, you kind of brought up the proof point presentation, and I was sitting in the corner working, but I was listening, and there's some aspect to threat intel that goes into awareness. There's also an aspect of what Luis said, which 100% resonates. No one person clicking on one link and compromising credentials should result in an entire compromise of an organization. That's a house of cards, right?
Yeah. The other question I got now for the crowd is how many of you have ever been texted or had a Zoom call directly with your CFO or your CEO?
One,
two,
3.
Do you think they're going to set a Zoom call up with you to buy a gift card? And do you think they're going to ask you in the middle of a random Tuesday to wire $50,000 to another company you do business with? So you guys all laugh, we're in security. How many of you have actually sat down with people in your company and had a conversation like this with them and asked that same question to the people who are doing AP, to the people who are doing HR, to the people who are doing the business side of it? There's a point of awareness where we're beating the hell out of people with things that, let's be honest, all of us probably never even watch the videos. We just click through until we get to the point where we can answer the question. How many of you are doing town halls with your companies and having this conversation about common sense? I mean, I'm going to pick on Wolf here just a little bit because I know the man's written like 4 books on hacking into stuff and doing things like this. He probably he knows how to hack in ways that I probably have never even thought about. But how many times have you had to do it technically that way? It's too easy, right? All you got to do is ask a question, right? Right. So that's the theme. You've got, if the first time your people in your company are hearing you from your security team is when they screwed up, and you're not getting in front of them and having conversations and having that discussion, ask them that question. The one I just said, when has the CEO ever asked you or directly, does he even know what your cell phone number is, right? Just ask those questions to people and get them to think about it in a common sense way. Get the fear out of it, because the reason they're doing what they're doing is fear of losing their job because they think the CEO has called them.
Yeah, what if it's a super secret acquisition and you just can't tell anybody?
Right.
It's always super secret, and it's always a lot of fun. Any other audience questions while we're on this topic? Because if you have them before we transition to another one, we'd love to take them.
I don't have a question, but I have a statement that might fill into that.
Hang on. We have a question, Reggie, and then we'll.
I'll shut up and let him answer.
Thank you, Reggie.
Thank you, guys. For the panel, I
Name?
think...
Your name?
Sherlin Johnson, DHS CISO. You mentioned sort of doing this 2025 year in review, and something that came to my mind in this year in review concept was the whole CrowdStrike situation. And I don't know if you're familiar with the butterfly effect, but my question to the panel is, you had this one small change, perturbation in one company that literally went around the globe several times. What are your thoughts on that, and do you think that we'll see more of that in the coming years? So this is what happened.
Can I ask you a question back?
Sure.
How is CrowdStrike different from the DNS outage Microsoft had last week or the one AWS had 2 weeks before?
I just gave you that one. I agree with the AWS being another instance of that. And so from a global IT planetary system, if you want to look at it that way, should we be thinking of these sorts of disruptions in the future, and more of them?
Kristen, go ahead.
So I don't think we should put so much focus on supplier risk as we have in this last year. Instead, I'll say, what are you doing to be resilient against supplier risk? And I think that's actually the key to, thank you. I actually think that's the key. All of our suppliers are as susceptible as we are, right? They can't protect themselves any better than we're protecting ourselves. And so the only thing that we can do is understand the risk they bring to our business and have a plan, right? Understand what are we going to do when that supplier has an issue, when they go down for a long time, or when they take down other suppliers. AWS's outage, how many of your suppliers fell because of that AWS outage a couple weeks ago?
Or your security tools.
Absolutely. And so instead, let's start thinking about how we protect ourselves against those risks and what our plan is, and start practicing for those, choosing our highest priority or our biggest risk suppliers and working through that list.
To add on to, spot on, right? But to add on to that, so it's not the first time CrowdStrike did that, right? They did it with Linux not long before that. It's also not the first time an EDR has done that. McAfee did it several years before that. Every cloud provider has had an outage in a region or a global outage has done it. Going back to what Kristen said, right? How have you thought about your resiliency plan and had these discussions going, what is acceptable to the board, to your customers, to the SLAs? Have you designed a system that says, well, if AWS goes down, I can fail everything over to GCP or Azure? It's always an option. You can do that, but then you've got a cost of doing business. And have you had that discussion and go, what is acceptable? Do we have the capability to fail to another vendor, to a competitor? Have we built ourselves, and do we understand enough about our third-party risk, going back to what we were talking about, our supplier third-party risk? Do we understand that if I buy, and I'm not going to pick on anybody in here, but if I buy any of the products over here who are competitors, do they run in the same cloud provider? Or have I diversified across cloud providers, making sure that when they go down, I can fail over and still possibly be up? Are you having that level of resiliency discussion besides our security tools? This becomes a much broader topic, and it's a great point, but a lot of times, and I think a group of us were talking about this earlier, you're going to get to a point where you have a conversation that goes, all right, how much do I need to be up? Is it 100%? Is it 5 nines? Or is it 3 days? How long can I be down? And those cost models start getting very drastically different, is the best way I can put it, when you start having that discussion. If you're not having that conversation with your partners in IT and your partners within the business and your partners within whoever your champion is on the board level, then you're not really making the impact that you should be making from the seat that you're in if you're not having that discussion.
So a show of hands in the room so our panels can actually get in, then we're going to get to that next question over there. How many following the AWS Microsoft CrowdStrike outage actually did a business continuity exercise or a tabletop exercise in their organization? Show of hands. Right. How many haven't done it but are planning on doing it Q1 or Q2 of next year?
How many of you in cyber are involved in the BCP and the disaster recovery?
Yeah. I mean, this goes to one of the biggest, I think, opportunities we have available in cyber as practitioners, right? Is getting involved in disaster recovery and communications, and in business continuity planning for the business, because that's where we can actually show ROI on the investment in cyber. And that's significant. All right, we have another question right there. And please state your name. Thank you for that question. And are y'all back, or are you still locked out because of the shutdown? Oh, no, I'm not federal. Okay, all right, I thought you were federal.
Hello, my name's Professor Roger. What's up, James?
What's up, buddy?
We had a clubhouse room together, right? Very interesting stuff. So a couple of things, right? I'm concerned about blame the victim, right? We always saying the user's fault. And you mentioned about, people getting emails from the CEO. That's a common practice. Without cybersecurity, forget the hacking. CEOs do that. Not them specifically, but their staff will do that. Say, hey, the CEO's on a trip, he wants to throw a party, send 20,000 this way or 50,000 this way, or he's talking to this vendor. So, that the hackers didn't make that up. You understand? That's a business practice which was exploited. And that's what we got to look at. We got to look at vulnerabilities of business practices, not come afterwards and say, hey, you're stupid because your CEO, the question you asked, and I'm not trying to get on you, but I'm
you
saying
can pick on Ken Foster. It's
You can pick on me.
absolutely
You
acceptable.
can pick on me all you want. And I agree with you because
It's actually encouraged.
It is. I don't disagree with you. It's not victim blaming, but have you poised the question to make people think about it in that way, right? Because I will argue that if you're in a company where your CEO is throwing a party and he's calling you directly and not the CFO, that's probably, you're right. It's a business practice issue that, well, number one, let me know who those are so I don't ever go work for them. Right. Because there's other things that are coming out of that. But yeah.
Well, what you're describing is a workflow problem.
It is. It's a workflow problem.
Yes, a business process.
It's a workflow problem that primarily we don't find very sexy to address in security, because everyone here wants a cool tool. No one wants to go into Visio and edit a work. Who wants to do that? Anyone like Visio? Anyone? One hand, two, anyone, three, that's it. A room of 200 people, these 4, 5, 6. Okay, now I feel like I'm guilty.
We got some closet Visio experts.
We got closet.
Yeah. But right. I'll go back to what you were talking about, right? Remember what I said earlier? Automating a shitty process makes it shitty faster? Yeah. Right?
Right.
Same thing with a bad business process.
But it's also our fault too. James, in his speech, talked about business, that we don't know the business. We don't, do we? I mean, seriously.
You should if you're the CISO. You should. If you're a CISO today that doesn't know the business, you're not going to be a CISO very long.
Right. Right.
And if the CISO that you work for doesn't explain how the business operates downstream to your team, so your team knows how the business operates, then you're not going to be a CISO for very long. Because your team's going to turn over fast, because they don't understand the mission of what the business is doing. They can never align, and they're always getting in tackles with IT and everyone else in the business.
Right. I have one more.
Please.
Right? With the software thing, right? So I walk into clients and they have teams, right? And they heavily, 90%. I talk to the CISO, we do a re-up, and the CISO says, well, nobody uses team. Okay, well, 90% of your staff uses Team, right? So now you talked about resilience, right, and redundancy. How are we going to flip over to Slack?
Well,
There's no flip over.
There's not, but I'll give you
understand?
an example of the last 4 companies I've been at. We've had both.
Yeah, right.
All
You
right,
have
so
both.
we've had
but-
both. And then we also have always had an out-of-band communications channel, right? So I imagine you're probably talking about smaller environments because...
No big environments.
Well, the big environments, because we mandate, like in the bigger environments I've been, we mandate Teams or we mandate Slack, or we mandate, because that's what we're paying for, and to reduce cost and to put controls in place. We're like, this is going to be your communications channel, right? Like we remove Zoom, or we try to minimize the number of options. Now, everywhere I've been though, we wind up with 2 typically. One typically is a engineering channel, and one is typically a corporate channel, and then we use one of those as our out-of-band, or we also use another out-of-band communication place for our incident responders and those kind of things. So I've rarely seen where I go into a place where that, and granted, I will argue that I've worked mostly in regulated environments for the last 10 years. So you have a little bigger hammer when you're in a regulated environment to control what people are communicating with and block it. But you're always going to have, I don't care where you are, and anybody up here can disagree with me, but you're always going to have somebody who's going to want to use their favorite little toy and bring it in if you don't, and use it. And going back, and now I'll talk about AI, because the problem with that is, right, so who in here is an E5 shop using Teams, right? Well, only very few hands.
Who
right?
doesn't know that they're an E5?
Who doesn't know they're an E5 shop using Teams? Who uses Microsoft email? All right, you all are.
Who uses Google email? I just want to see who's participating.
Yeah.
So some of you don't use email at all.
So no email, right? Is that what we're seeing? Yeah. So some of y'all lying
Some of
because
them
you
are
don't
in
want to
AOL.
raise your hand.
No, Luis just said it. Some of them are in AOL and they don't want to admit it.
Oh, they
You've
finally
got mail.
They finally killed that domain. Yeah, AOL's dead now.
AOL is dead?
Yeah, as of like a month ago, they finally killed the AOL domain. Yeah.
Just the dial-up.
Just the
yeah.
dial-up. Yeah.
Yeah, the email still works. I mean, when you log
Well, I
into
mean,
AOL, it
look,
still
we're
says
talking to a
you've
guy
got-
who still has a Hotmail account. So, yeah, right. So, yeah. Yeah. Hey, it works because it doesn't get attacked as much as Live or Outlook or any of that. But I mean, it's one of those things, right? That there's going to be those opportunities where people, and AI is one of those. Like I found out about. We have Teams, E5. We want everybody to use Teams. Teams, we give everybody Copilot. We'll use Copilot to take notes, right? Great. Sanction tied into our controls. Then you start seeing notes coming to you from these products that you've never heard of, and then you realize, well, I thought we blocked that. Well, no, because Microsoft put it in their store that allows you to download this other app that does AI notes, right? So it's again, you're always going to be dealing with these other little things that you're going to have to figure out ways to do about it. Like there's no one size fits all. You're going to stop everything. It's about hoping that people will come to you and you've built a trust relationship, and a relationship, like I said, you never want to be the first time you talk to them is when they've done something wrong. You want it to be the fact that they're like, hey, we saw this, want to ask you about it. And that's been the best thing I can tell anybody in my seat over the years doing security, is making sure that I'm approachable and that people are willing to come ask me questions. Because if they think, because I have worked somewhere where they said, oh God, here he comes, he is the devil. I have been called that before because they think I'm going to tell them no and I'm going to stop them from doing everything. But you've got to build a relationship with people where they're willing to come with you and ask you a question and go, we want to do this. How do I approach it correctly? So.
As we are almost at time, I want to kind of take us into 2026 because We're 56 days away from it. Can you believe it? Like it's there, it's coming, it's insane that, I mean, I can't believe it's November, personally, but yeah. But looking at 2026, maybe I'll start with Luis on this one, but Luis, like, what's going to change from now? What do you think is going to be the key differentiator between 25 and 26? And is it, in your opinion, your personal opinion, going to be better or worse?
My hope is that it's going to be better. I'm hoping the economy will start picking up, and therefore companies will start doing a little better, or more than that, see the forecast as getting better and start hiring more, and therefore cybersecurity teams kind of getting built up. And I don't expect budgets to start going up necessarily next year, but at least the hiring start preparing for that. So for that, in our team, we're looking at, okay, what are we going to do for preparing our team for that? One thing, and sorry vendors here, you might hate this, but because of how technology changes and AI is changing so much for the good, but so many organizations are using the AI label to, oh, now we are AI. I'm personally looking at my contracts and signing just 1-year contracts, especially if they use AI or claim to use AI, because we don't know who's going to be in charge in a year, 2 years, 3 years. So that to me is a strategic advantage that we can hold, both for being able to switch the following year for something better, or two, who have to have that leverage with the vendor to work with us to create features to enhance the product to the needs of our organization. And that would allow me to free up budget that I can use then for other things, including hiring people. So I'm hoping very cautiously that things will get better and hiring and economy will get better.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? I can go next. Go ahead, Hussein.
Yeah, for me, is the evolving technologies is really, even though we'll be hearing it all day long about agentic AI, is just how can I use agentic AI in the defense and depth of what I have? What are the things that I'm going to be looking at? Not necessarily tools, not necessarily purchasing new tools. It's just the ability for me to understand, to really educate my leadership on the importance of that technological, forthcoming in terms of defense, and try to really automate as much as I can in terms of agentic AI to minimize any events that can happen, meaning be ahead of those on the offensive side that are trying to either penetrate us, or they are nation state or any other that, and just try to really study and making sure that we're implementing and we are thinking about using agentic AI in all our defenses across the board.
Kristen, would you like to go next?
So in our space, we are focused primarily on automation for 2026. What can we automate from our job? And it's not so much about how to use AI, but how to streamline our processes and make them cleaner, smoother, take away the mundane tasks so that we can focus on all of the changes that are happening with AI. Instead, my team will be challenged with AI. Every month we have a tabletop SecOps test, and they will have to come to the table having used AI so that they can better understand it and learn how to defend against it. You can't defend what you don't know. So it'll be training and automation.
Go ahead.
I think I'm a very positive guy, and being optimistic, AI will generate more jobs and creates more jobs, because we have been seeing AI security, AI governance, a lot of more coming to next year, I guess. I mean, going forward. So, yep.
Mr. Foster?
Trying to think how I'm going to phrase this. So I think we're going to continue to see a consolidation, a couple of things. On the vendor manufacturer side, tooling, I think we're going to continue to see the consolidation that we've been seeing over the last few years. I actually think that's going to ramp up. So whoever your favorite tool is you're using now or new startup that's coming out, it's going to be embedded into a larger company moving forward. You know, some of them don't make sense. I'm going to go piggyback off James earlier. The CyberArk Palo Alto.
25 billion.
25 billion doesn't
Someone
make,
had Epstein files there, man.
does not make sense to me.
There was something there. That's not a 25 billion
being that
purchase.
as you look at the landscape of the startups that are coming out there, there are so many people that are doing things that are better than what they were doing already. And I think that's the other thing you're going to have to think about. You're going to come to a point where you're going to have real world conversations with these startups that are coming out going, great, you've built this agent that is doing X. Do I have the talent, and by talent I mean someone in my team who has the talent to build the exact same thing at a lower cost rate internally that is fully customized to me? Right? So I think that's going to change, and you're right, it may generate more jobs, but what it's going to do is, I think, hurt the vendor community a little bit, because if they're writing an agentic AI agent that can go out and do data discovery and tag data in your environment, yeah, guess what? So can a talented developer on your team who can access the exact same data and do that. So I think we're going to have a lot of discussion in 2026 on the build or buy. And I think the value. And I think there's going to be a bunch of discussion around, I think that build or buy is going to ramp up over the next year. And then I also think on the staffing side, just career path wise, if you're at a point in your career where you're thinking about what's next and you're not spending your own money and your own effort and teaching yourself how to write agents, how to be a better prompt engineer, how to think through how I can ask AI the right questions and write things and understand it, you're going to probably find that the career paths are not as open as they were in the past. So spend the effort, train yourself, think about how do I make myself an invaluable asset on understanding the solutions and the problems that AI generate for us, right? I do think it's going to create more employment opportunities, but you can't rely on your company to provide that opportunity for you. You're going to have to take the ownership of learning that and increasing your education and increasing your skill set. So don't fear losing your job because of AI. Think about how you're going to enhance your career because you've been willing to take on and learn and increase your employability and your promotability based on what you know how to do with AI.
Yeah, I'm going to take you to pre-COVID in 2020. I know that's a time many of you can't remember because you're so young and beautiful and awesome, but cybersecurity people weren't single-tracked at that time. In fact, many of us knew many disciplines in cybersecurity because it was kind of expected of us. Then COVID came and we went into lockdown, remote work, and single-tracked minding. And I think 2026 is going to be the year where you need to become that unicorn that everyone's asking for. And so upskill on AI, upskill on other cybersecurity disciplines. That's only going to increase your viability to actually land a position and a challenge you want to take on. We're at time. So I want to thank our panelists. Please give them a hand, folks. Where's Kim and Josh and the team? Thank you so much for putting this on. Every year in Atlanta, Kim comes up here and throws a great event and brings great people together. And so let's give a hand to Kim, Josh, and team at FutureCon.
I was going to say one thing before I hand this to Kim. For the crowd here, it's 15 after 5 in Atlanta. Thank you all for staying and being engaged. Because trust us, we know that it's Atlanta, but it's always great to look out amongst the crowd and see everybody here still engaged. So thank you.
And this is the best cybersecurity community in the nation. Give it up for ATL.
It is. It actually, we had about 300 people registered. We had to turn codes off because we didn't have enough room, and it was packed today. So we love Atlanta. We usually wrap it up at the end of the year, but last year, Ken said no one likes to come around Christmas time, so we came today. So thank you all. We know how busy your schedules are. And there's still another 200 people watching us virtually, we hope. And unfortunately, some people don't have the opportunity to get out of their offices, and that's why we do the virtual mode. So thank you to all my virtual viewers, and thank you to this esteemed panel, because I know how busy your lives are as well. So one more round of applause for the panel. And with that being said, if you're leaving, you want to check out the CPE